Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to 2021. Uh, this is the first session in the new year. I'm gonna start with two important concepts. One is logging, how the logging is basically work, what exactly the logging, why we need it. First, we'll discuss about a problem statement, like we always discuss about a problem statement to learn any new technology first. And then we will see how efficiently we can use Log4j in our script. Then the next part, we're gonna discuss about reporting. Uh, Reporting is basically, in a simple word, whatever you have done with automation, how do you report to someone else? Correct. The other person who doesn't have any technical background, if you just want to understand what you have done in automation, in the case of how many tests executed, how many passed, who executed what, which day you executed it, what was the overall weekly result, monthly result, overall pass percentage, defect density in a specific module. All these things can be generated using a technology which we'll use an extend report. So reporting is one aspect of our automation and logging is another aspect of automation. Logging is mostly used for the technical folks because they tend to look into the logs about to learn more about automation. Either it's passing correctly or it's failing or there is something wrong. Whenever you want to know more about automation scripting, you look at the logs, right? So let's take an example. If you remember when you started learning Java, the first program which probably you would have written is Hello World, right? So when you write a Hello World program, you generally print system.out.println and you write Hello World. That generally gets printed in the console, isn't it? So whatever so far we were executing, it was getting printed in a console. What does it mean? That the developer or the technical folk who is working on automation is able to look at the console and then he is able to see, okay, I'm printing something. Similarly, if you remember when we were writing automation scripts, we generally were writing system.out.println like this: login is successful, logout is successful, right? Why we were writing all this information? Because of course we wanted to have that information displayed somewhere else, let's say console, so that we can follow the execution sequence, right? Or in a more technical word, I can say we'll able to do debugging, correct? If something is going wrong or if something is going right, by looking at the logs, by looking at this print statement, we'll understand how the execution is happening. So ultimate
On saying debugging word, I came across this firebug. Sure, what is that?
a firebug a firebug is, I think, a plugin generally for the Firefox,
Mhm.
which helps you to find locators for Selenium.
Oh, locators, not a debugging of the errors.
I don't think so. Yeah, I used it some years back, but yeah, I don't use it
Oh,
now. Yeah, Harshal, you remember last session you asked me a question about sometimes you face challenge in defining the locators, right? Even though we learned a lot of different locators, I know I asked you guys to write locators on your own because that's a good practice. But I really recommend you to guys download Selector Hub plugin. Okay, Selector Hub. So Selector Hub is a plugin. I'll show you guys, which I also use it for my own automation. And that plugin is really very good. It gives you a good locators. I'll show you one quick example. Okay, I'm deviating from a topic, but because we just brought this, I just want to make sure that you guys know it. So go to your Chrome, go to your more tools, go to extension, and then here you type Selector Hub. So I already have this Selector Hub, but once you uh, write Selector Hub, you will get this extension. This extension is really cool and very good to grab the right locators for your script. For example, I'll go to our website, Ministry of Automation. So by the way, guys, I'm revamping our entire website. Soon you're gonna see a very new look, entire learning management system included. All our courses will be here. You will able to learn from our website itself. You don't need to go to Google Drive or YouTube or anything else. Okay, I'm gonna give you access to this website. So let's say I want to click on login button. Generally what we do, right click and do inspect path, right? And then the organic way, the approach was us to understand, okay, how I can write a locator, how I can write an XPath for this particular login button, correct? When you download a Selector Hub plugin, you will have something like this on your developer tool. So click on a Selector Hub. Now what happens, the moment you click on a Selector Hub, and on the left side, the moment you select the tag, whatever tag you are interested in, so this it will automatically give you an XPath. Can you see this XPath?
Yes.
So once you click on this XPath, this is the XPath basically. Once you click on this XPath, it also copies that XPath for you. Okay. You don't need to even right click and copy. Just click on this and it will say, okay, copy. So you can directly use this XPath for your script. So find element dot by dot XPath and just give this XPath, right? Or let's say if I don't want to use text, here you can say, okay, I don't want to use text. Just deselect the text and it will try to give you a different XPath. If you want to go by class name, just click on that. It will go you class name. Go by link text, go by link text. You know, by dot class name, by dot XPath, by dot link text, by dot partial link text. Are you getting my point? So depending on which locator technique you are interested to use and which aspect of those attributes, here you can do that selection and it will try to generate an XPath for you. Okay. So like I said, I always recommend first to start writing your own XPaths at least for 2 to 3 months so that you get comfortable and so you understand whatever it is generating here, you should understand how it is generating, right? And once you're comfortable in that, feel free to use this plugin. This will really speed up your automation. Okay.
Will this work Firefox only or can use on Chrome?
I think it should work on both Firefox as well as Chrome, but I generally prefer, and my recommended browser is Firefox. Chrome.
Yeah, it's working in Chrome as well, sir. I want to try that.
What do you say?
No, it's working in Chrome as well. I try that.
Yeah, no, the question he asked is, does it work in Firefox? So I'm not sure. This is developed by a very talented Indian guy, and I've been using this from last couple of years, and I really like it. And this is in aligned with the way we learn writing XPaths. So if you right click copy XPath, whatever this browser gives you, this generally I don't recommend because it gives you very weird XPath sometimes. See this. So that's why I don't recommend going through this copy XPath given by Chrome developer tool. But when you select the Selector Hub, probably it will give you one of the best XPaths, and you have a very good flexibility of selecting and deselecting. But yeah, don't blindly select anything from here. Try to understand how it has generated an XPath or CSS, and hopefully it will make sense to you. Okay. Going back, and I also recommend you guys, this website is going to be up by 7th. Once it's up, create your login on our website. Okay, create your new accounts so that I can send you guys a direct link of our course, which I'm going to upload it. Okay, so register on our website. Okay, now back to the topic, Log4j. So if you remember, we were writing this system.out.println and all those things. So what is the problem now? Let's understand this. If let's say this test always passes, okay. So if this test always passes and this test has multiple system.out.println at various stages, just understand that.
One Edureka also.
What is that?
Edureka.
Edureka related to?
It's a learning platform, right? Edureka.
Correct.
Yeah, are you on that?
No, I am not on Edureka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I saw like the name Shaurabh. Actually, I was looking for like.
He's the founder. Edureka founder name is also Saurabh.
Oh.
Yeah, I know that guy. He kind of reached out to write me some articles on their website.
Okay.
About OATS OpenScript, but yeah,
so like immediately when I typed the TestNG related questions and all, I saw like Shaurabh. Oh, he's teaching here also. I thought.
No. Yeah, the Edureka is founded by another guy whose name is also Saurabh. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So let's assume in this particular test, you have multiple system.out.println, right? So what happens whenever you're looking at the execution logs, you do not have any control whether you want to actually see the success logs or you want to only see a failure logs and so on. And when you run the entire test suite, when you run a regression test suite, or let's say this test is fairly stable from last 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and it's never fails or it never creates any issue. In such cases, you may probably want to limit some print statement, like clicked on button, page is successfully displayed, or those kind of logging information, those kind of printed information, you may not able to collect all the time because it unnecessarily increases the size of your execution, right? Size of your file. So what happens by default, when you write your test, you write a lot of system.out.println, either pass or fail. And when you execute a test, you do not have any control as such on what information you are only looking for. So let's say, now let's come back to what is the problem statement. Whenever I talk about problem statement, I want you to think about 500 test scripts or 1000 test scripts in your project, because that's where you will be able to understand the problem. For 1-2 test scripts, it's not a problem. When you have 500 tests or 1000 tests, and when you're executing them on a daily basis, when the entire 500 tests are running on a daily basis, there is a lot of logs are getting generated. When I say logs, this is the information, printed information. Okay. See, well, logs are basically just an information to an end user. Logs doesn't do anything for you. Like this, however number of logs you write, it's not gonna click on a button. It's not gonna enter anything on a system. It's not gonna do anything like take screenshot, nothing, right? Logging is fairly for information. Logging is fairly for mostly for a debugging, or mostly for to understand better, to follow what's happening in the execution sequence and all. If you don't write these logs, your console will not report anything, and your script will done executing, and you will not able to understand what was the pattern, what was the sequence, whether it went inside if condition or whether it went inside else condition. If you don't have logs, you will not able to follow your execution. That's why logs are important. Now the question is, if you have 500 scripts running every day, so many logs are getting repeatedly generated, and the size of your execution, basically the execution results, whatever you're gonna store, it will be huge, and every day you may not want that. Now let me ask you, do you have any control where you say, hey Saurabh, I only want to print those logs where I am facing a problem? When I say problem, so let's say I have if and else condition in my script, and I'm saying, hey, only when it goes to else block, or whenever there is some issue like button not found, or if there is some unexpected happening, only those log I'll be interested to see. Otherwise I'm not interested to see success logs all the time. It is okay to ignore them. So do you think currently, with the way we are writing our scripts, we have any control on it? What do you guys think? So whatever here we are writing, all this system.out.println will always print, right? They'll always print. If the execution is successful, from top to bottom, it will always print title, current URL, whatever I'm giving in the system.out.println. This will always get printed. But when I'm saying, no, I want some execution control, I don't want to see the pass logs, I only want to see the fail logs, or I only want to see the warning logs. Do you have any control with the current approach, the way we are writing right now? Is there any way we can control it with the current approach? No, because currently we do not use any technology or any such toggling or any switching or anything. So basically it will always execute this, correct? And we'll always get system.out.println, which is not good in a way when we have so many scripts, right? Now another thing is, if you remember why we use testng, because testng was helping us to filter what test we want to execute, right? We use testng to group particular tests together. without coming and editing or commenting the code. We don't need to go and comment the code if you want to always run this particular file, but if you want to ignore some test. So TestNG was a solution for us to solve that, because that's why we call it as testing framework, the way we test our script. TestNG provides that solution to us. Now what the Log4j is providing, Log4j is another technology developed by entirely different folks than Selenium. Selenium is started by ThoughtWorks, and then a lot of open source community contributed it. Log4j is developed by Apache guys. Extend report is also developed by Apache guys. POI library also developed by Apache guys, and open source, free to use. Now what is Log4j? So what Log4j people thought is, and this is not just a Selenium problem, okay? This is a development problem altogether. Log4j is not the technology to be used only for automation, or Log4j is not designed to use only for Selenium. Keep this in mind. This technology has been developed to address any Java projects, or slowly now they are also getting used in other technologies like .NET and Python. But yes, Log4j is not specifically or specially developed for Selenium. Okay, first thing. Second thing, Log4j has been designed to address logging problems for Java projects. What is a logging problem? Like I said, because we are using Selenium, I'm addressing system.println inside our Selenium test. But this can be available, system.out.println can be available in any Java project, right? A development project also, not just a testing project. So what this Log4j folks has thought is, okay, if I want to give some flexibility to an end user where he's only interested to see pass logs, or where he only interested to see fail logs, then how can he do it without even coming and changing his script? So even if you write all these 4 different statements, if you only want to execute 2 of them, let's say, then I don't want people to come to this script and comment the code and then again save it, compile it, So how can I give a flexibility, or what tool we can design with which any developer will have a mechanism to control what level of logs, how deep or how high level or how small logging information he's interested to see when he's running his tests. So keeping that intention in mind, they came up with a technology called Log4j. Now Log4j is basically, like I'm again repeating, it's a logging framework. It's a not reporting framework. Okay. So logging is basically mostly used for technical folks who want to go through the logs of what happened. Now there are different level of logging strategies. Even if you write let's say system.out.println at every level in your script, which is a good, but when you run your script, you don't want them to execute. First of all, if you want every line to be executed, it will be time consuming because it will take certain milliseconds to execute each of print.out.println, right? Second, your end result file size will keep on growing. Third, if you are not really interested in some part of logs, which let's say test is fairly stable or it's not failing, and I don't want to report the log, you do not have any control, correct? So to address all these problem statements, Log4j guys has developed another technology, and what they say, hey, you just download our jars, import it like we do for a lot of other technologies like TestNG and Extend reports or Apache POI. You download the jars, import it to your project, and use our logging object. Okay. So they say, okay, you used our logging object instead of using system.out.println. So let's assume now I'm writing a system.out.println. Instead of writing this big statement, what I'll write, I'm just giving an example, log. And then I'll say, okay, log dot, let's assume I'm gonna, so log object will have certain methods. For example, info is one of the method. Okay. So I'll say, okay, you create our object and then use a different method. So let's say you use log.info and write whatever you want. This will exactly work like system.out.println. Okay. Then log4j says, okay, if you create a log object and then instead of info, if you write, let's say error, then this particular information will be treated as an error statement. If you type log dot, let's say, I think fatal, then this will be included as another different level of logging information. So they give different methods, and they say instead of writing system.out.println, if you simply write this level of information, what I will do is at the end of your execution, I will give you a flexibility of what logs you are interested to capture. Also, it gives you a flexibility where you want to send that logging information. When I say where you want to send, by default, it is always printing in console, isn't it? Log4j gives you one level of flexibility where it says, okay, if you want to send success logs in one file, I'll send you all that in one file. If you only want to see error, I'll send it to another file. If you only want to see, let's say, warning or fatal, I'll send it to another file. So now you have added advantage and a flexibility to decide what level of logs can go in what folders or what files. You get a little bit of flexibility, because sometimes what happens, some people say, okay, I'm only interested to see the error logs. Can you please show me the error logs? And then if you give that complete big size which contains pass and errors and warning, that's not a good sign. So that's why you can also segregate the logging information. You'll say, okay, error logs in this file, pass logs in this file, or warning logs in this file. So you have that advantage also. So basically Log4j is giving you a flexibility to decide where to log, what to log, how to log. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So let's go by definition. What is logging? Again, this is not specific to automation. I'm again repeating this. This approach or this solution or this technology is being developed to address any logging strategies for any type of Java projects. Because we are learning Java now, I'll stick to the Java. Most of the developers who are developing on Java projects, they use Log4j. It's very favorite and very widely accepted technology in Java projects. And that's why Selenium folks also started using it, saying like, hey, why we can't use it? Even we'll use it for automation. And yeah, it fairly works with our automation as well. So logging is used. What basically logging? The term by definition, logging is used to store exception, information, and warning as a message that occur during the execution of program, right? Log4j is a tool to help programmer output log statement to variety of output targets. This is what I was saying. In case of problem with an application, it is helpful to enable logging so that the problem can be located. Now let me ask you this. When you have any issue on your system, let's say on our operating system, if you guys are using Windows or Mac, and whenever you reach out to your IT folks that, hey, my Outlook is not working, or my specific antivirus is not working, whatever it is, what they generally do first thing, they look at the logs, isn't it? They say, hey, can I look into your logs, please? They'll go to some folder which they'll know by default, and then they start looking into logs. Basically, it will have all the information about how that program is performing, right? And that logging information again would have generated using Log4j. The program which you are using, let's say Microsoft Outlook, that program would have used internally Log4j to generate logging of your usage. So it will send all the good logs or past logs in one folder. It will say some warning or error logs in another folder. So that IT folk, when he'll come to your machine to try to see what is the problem, he will know some specific folder structure, and he'll try to go into that, and he'll say, okay, looks like error log doesn't have anything, which means you are fine. And then he'll go to warning logs and then say, okay, looks like there are some warnings throwing by your, okay, looks like your password has expired, or it's been tried to access by someone else. So looking at the logs, he'll understand what is the exact problem. And that is what we are also intended to capture in automation, because by looking at the execution log all the time is not needed to find the problem. Are you getting my point, guys? Execution log will have a big statement, right? From logging is successful, click on this button, captured this screenshot. It will have big information. Sometimes it's good to segregate the logs and store it in a different file. Again, this is needed for bigger projects, and where this kind of standard is being introduced. And it is an optional to use Log4j in a framework building, but I really recommend to use it. Instead of system.out.println, you should use the log object to log your messages. In absence of logging framework, what will happen if you don't use, let's say, Log4j? Is it like you can't write automation? Of course you can write automation. You will end up using system.out.println, right? And it will print every time for every case, like either pass or fail, which might increase the file size and unwanted in many cases. Like I said, you don't have any flexibility or a control. Now, how do we use the Log4j? So far, so good, guys. Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So like this is a fairly similar approach, how we use a lot of different technologies on automation. And I'm again repeating, guys, whatever I'm teaching you, this is all relative to each other. Try to understand in automation, there are so many things, but don't get confused. Just ask two questions. What is the problem statement this technology is solving, and how to use that technology in my existing project? The second question is mostly similar, like they'll probably create a jar files, or they'll probably create some kind of download or executable, and they want you to download and import to your project, you know. So like again, Log4j developed by Apache guys. Now when I'm saying developed by Apache guys, you would have understood that it must be in form of some jar files, right? So you say Log4j download. So you'll go to this first link, Apache download. And now here under download section, here you have different releases, previous releases. This is the latest releases. Download Apache Log4j 2. I think this is a new version 2. And then here you can say zip file. If you are on the Windows, you will use zip file. If you are on the Mac, you will use this. We use generally the same thing. You will download this, you will extract, and what you will do? Can anyone help me understand? You'll go to your project,
External jars.
right click, properties, and then you'll go to Java build path, and then libraries, and add external jars, and then you will import that Log4j, correct? So that you are ready to use Log4j classes. But if I don't want to use this, then what is the other option we have?
Maven dependency.
Exactly, we have a Maven dependency, right? Because Maven is another technology which is helping us to solve this problem, manually download and importing, correct? And that is why rather than doing all this download and import now, what we're going to do, simply we're going to go to again Apache Log4j. Here you will have Maven. Just go click on the Maven, and then if you see Log4j in your Apache Maven build, now here Maven is saying you basically need two, Apache Log4j API and core. So basically they are already giving a dependency tag. So just copy this dependency tag, right click, copy this dependency tag, go to your project. And now in your project, we have already created what? A POM file, right? POM.xml in this particular package. And where is that? Now this is my test.ng XML. Okay, let me show you some other project. So let's say, yeah, this is the pom.xml. So here in pom.xml, what we will do, we have dependencies. We have one tag which is dependencies, correct? Inside the dependencies, here dependency is a parent tag. We have multiple dependency. JUnit is one dependency, then Selenium is another dependency. Again, Selenium, two different versions of Selenium. And then if I want to add test.ng, we added test.ng dependency. And then see log4j, this is the tag which I added as a log4j tag. Now here I'll simply copy the log4j tag, save it, and automatically if you see under your project, if you expand reference libraries, sorry, not external Maven dependencies, and then you will see a lot of different jars. So here you will also see probably the log4j jar. See these two jars, they will automatically get imported by Maven for you. So no need to download and right click and do build path and all that stuff. Just add this dependency tags and you're good to go. Is this okay? Do you understand?
Or can we use two dependencies for different type of functions?
Yes, for log4j, we need two dependencies. One is the API and another is core.
No, generally, for example, Selenium. or
Uh-huh.
testing. There, is it fine for add for two versions?
No, it's not good to add two versions. Here, I'm not actually adding two versions. One is I have a Selenium remote driver because I'm using it on Dockers. And this is the normal Selenium. So probably you will have this one. But if you are using something like a Dockers and all, you will also need a Selenium remote driver dependency.
So it will give conflict, I think.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it will throw error, I think.
If you try to use, yes, if you try to use the same Selenium and two versions, I think it will throw you an error. So here, if I let's say 2.11, right? I think, yeah, see here, because the artifact ID, if it's same, it will show you an error. So you see, Maven is just like our project. You also can create your own projects and publish to the Maven repository, you know. Uh-oh, I did something wrong. Yeah. So when you create any Maven project, you remember guys, it asks you the group ID and artifact ID, right? And the reason it asks group ID and artifact ID is because if you are interested to circulate that project to anyone, like an open source project, you can go ahead in a Maven repository and publish your project. So if you go to Maven repository, you can upload your own project. Okay. You can upload your own project, and whatever project you will upload, the only restriction it will try to check is the artifact ID and a group ID. It shouldn't be same with any existing Maven project artifact ID and a group ID. So if you go to any Maven project, if you go to its version, this is how it identifies group ID and artifact ID. These are the two things which makes that particular project distinct or unique, you know. Okay, so once we added the Log4j dependency and save it, it will start importing and you will have everything added. Now let's go and try to understand how do we write this particular log information. So anyone have any background on Log4j, or if anyone have any existing work you guys have done? Okay, let me ask you this. This is a generic question. Whenever we want to consume any technology, what is the first thing we generally use?
We have to import and
Uh-huh.
we have to import the package.
Okay, so that we did. What else? So let's say this is why test ng test, one test ng test, right? Let me now here, if I want to use the logging now instead of, so let's say without log4j, if I want to write any print statement, what I'll write? System.out.println, right? So I'll say this is without log4j, correct? Okay. What I'll do, just to keep it simple, I'll remove the other thing for you guys. Just have one smoke test, let's say. Okay. I have only one smoke test under this class called as app test. Now, test ng test, using a normal test, inside that I have one print statement. Now I don't want to use this print statement. Like I'm saying, I imported a log4j and we are gonna start consuming the log4j logs. So generically, whenever you want to consume any technology outside which you are interested to consume, what is the first thing you do? You create an object to refer that class, isn't it? You create an object, or you create something which will help you to take use of those downloaded jars, isn't it? Like in WebDriver, Selenium jars, we create a WebDriver object, right? Similarly, here also you will have to create first an object for a log4j. Are you getting my point? Okay, so let me create. So let's say logger log equal to, and then we have log manager is the class in the log4j. Okay, and then log manager dot get get logger, yeah, get logger, and then you have to pass your class name there. Let's import logger from Log4j core. This is this Apache Log4j core. This is what you want to import, and then here it will say, okay, you have to basically pass the class name. Now here inside this, what we're gonna do, we'll have to pass whatever is your class name. So what is the class name in this case? Okay, that's right. And then you'll say app test dot, this is class, and what is that next? If you want to get a name in a runtime, you say get name. Okay, and what, hover your mouse, change type log to logger. Okay, I think here I got to use this should be private and static logger log equal to log manager. This is a one-time statement to create a log object. Generally log manager dot get logger, and then we pass the name. Where is the issue? Let's see. Add cast logger, change type log to logger. Apache log manager core.logger, Apache logging log4j.logger. Okay, let's do one thing. Here, let's say dot star. Remove this too. Take everything. Save this. Okay, fine. It was basically an import statement issue. Now, if you see, we have created a log object. I know this might sound a little complicated, but this is a one-time statement. Even like you create a web driver equal to new chrome. Basically, here we are creating a log object, which is basically coming from the logging package. Now, once you create this log object, now instead of writing system.out.println, you said log dot. Now here, if you type info, right? Now see, there are so many methods. I may not able to explain you a lot of methods. I'll leave it up to you guys to explore, but I'll explain you some important regularly used. So let's say info is the one of the methods. So now instead of system.out.println, if you use info, now here you'll say this is from log4j. Now you can simply replace this system.out.println by writing log.info. Now, how is this different? Let's understand. In your entire test execution, you may write multiple log.info, which is fine. There may be a case where you want to write extra information. For example, let's say instead of writing log.info, I'll say log.debug is another method. Okay, and here, let's remove this. This is the debug of different priority levels. So like I said, every method has a different method override, so you can go ahead and explore. But yeah, here he'll say this is extra information, and that's it. So this is log.debug. Now what will happen? I'll explain you something called as a logging configuration file. That configuration file will basically control what information is reported to an end user. Even though I have these two information, log.info, log.debug, there are so many methods. So let's say I'm using log.error. Okay, and in error I'll say this is error, or let's say button is not working, or button is not displayed. You can say anything, and then you have a log.fatal. Here also you can write anything. Now if you carefully say, observe, one test has how many logs? This one single test it has system.out.println. It also has this many logs, right? Now let me run this. So if I want to run this, let's say what I'll do, first I'll copy, I'll have to make changes in my test-ng, isn't it? Because here I'm interested to execute only one particular class. So I'll go here. Where is my, this is my class app test. So in the test-ng XML, I'll say, okay, test maven. And then inside this test maven, can you please go to this app test, and what is the method I have? Test app. So copy, and I'll say, okay, can you please only run, not here, dot test app, right? Okay, let's remove this. I think it's creating an issue. Oh. Okay, so now in a test-ng XML, I said, okay, I only want to run one method in that class. So in test-ng XML, we have defined that configuration. So it will only come to this particular app test, and it will only run this particular test, which is this one. Even though I have a lot of other tests in my other packages, it will not go. Okay, it will not run all of them. It will run, it will come to test maven dot first maven package, and then in that it will look for app test. Let's go back to test-ng XML once again. I hope test first maven. No, I think, wait, this is the package name. Okay, and then this is the class name. Anyway, I have only one in that particular, and then this is the method. Okay, so we have to only give till class, okay, because it's a class tag, so we are only supposed to give till class level. So this is the class. Let's remove this. Now save this. Okay, so now if I run this, if you run this particular, let's say, and right click on the test-ng XML, right click, run as test-ng suite. Let's see what will happen. Okay, total run 1, pass 1. But now if you look at the logs, this is the log. Okay, now can anyone tell me this log is coming from where? Let me open the test. If you look at the print.out.ln, this is coming from where? System.out.println, right? And now the other two logs, if you see this other two logs, this is coming from where? This is reported from Log4j, correct? But now you will say, Saurabh, why the 19 statement is not there, right? Log.info. And then why the log.debug is not there? Why only log.error and log.fatal is there? Can you tell me, guys? Where these two information went? Or why these two information is not reported here? The reason, because by default Log4j will only report you the error and fatal. Okay, so like I said, you have a flexibility to control what logs you want to report. Even though you have info, debug, error and fatal, and combination of this in your entire script, you can define what level of logs you want to report to an end user by keeping your file size minimum. How do you do that? By having a separate configuration file, basically having a separate log4j XML file, which we're gonna create. So how do we create it? Again, you go to official website. Here, if you go to log4j, should be configuration file, logging separation. Let's say logging separation. No. configuration. Okay. So you come down in the configuration, and here you see they are saying, okay, this is the sample XML file. This is by default. Okay. So Log4j internally using this configuration to report. What this configuration says, there are three things in the Log4j called as appenders, loggers, and layout. Okay. I'll quickly give you a highlight about what it is. So this Log4j XML file will give you the flexibility of where to store your logs, at what level you want to report the logs. For example, here if you see a root means everything. Here it says by default error, which means it will only consider error and fatal to report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this XML, come to your project. Here at your project level, this is my first event, right click, and you already have, I think, target src. So let's create another folder. So let's say create a folder, and I'll say log4j, say finish. Now inside this log4j, I'm going to create a new file which will be of type XML. Okay. Let's go log new other, and then XML, and then XML file, next, and then instead of saying new file, I'll say log4j config. You can give any name basically, log4j underscore config, and there's a finish. It will be blank file, and then whatever configuration we have copied, just paste it, that configuration, and save it. Now if you see this, by default whatever the root, see again this log file has two important things, guys. Let's understand. One is appenders and another is loggers. Okay, so you don't need to go in depth, but just understand what these two tags are. So let me go to my PPT. Log4j basically have three basic components or high level. One is logger, the one which we are created an object and started using, right? Log.error, log.fatal, log.info. So basically define what to log. Second is appenders. Appender is the tag in your config file which decides where to log, where to store your logs. By default, it stores the log at a console level, but you also can store the log in some other external file. So that you can define in this XML. You don't need to go and change your code. Here, if you see at this current setting, it is logging at a console level, and target is system.out.println, basically at a system out directory which is on your system. We can change this. I'll show you how to do that. So appender tags help you to decide where to log. Now last is the layout tag. Layout is basically to fancy or to do some kind of modification the way your log looks, how to basically how to log. So now here in this particular XML, the current XML is at the error level, is the error. So there is also a level called as trace. So the trace means log everything. Now what will happen the moment I change the root level equal to trace? Now here, if you remember in my previous test, even though I had 4 different logs, it was only reporting which one? First 2, right? So sorry, the error and fatal, because by default the root level was error. Now when I say trace and when I run the same test again, now let me run the same test again. Okay, it's still reported to, yeah, basically because we didn't add that particular to the build path. There is one more step we have to do. Whatever the new folder you have created, I want that folder to take effect when I build this particular project, when I run this. So again, right click, go to properties, go to yeah, we are already here in the build path. Go to source. Now in this source, you will have to add one more folder, what the one which we just now created, because currently these two are included, a log4j. Just select this and then say okay, and then say apply, and then apply and close, because while building it will consider whatever is inside that folder. There is the only one step. Now you again run, right click, run as test-ng test. Okay, it is still reported 2, right? Let's go to log4j XML. Was there any difference? Console target. So here the pattern, you can change the pattern. So let's say I don't want. So right now, if you see the way it is logging is basically this is the pattern: hour, minute, second, and then from where it is coming, SSS, and then what is the level of it, and then the logger information, and finally the message. So you can change this. For example, I'll here, instead of all this information, if I'll say Saurabh's log, this is, and let's see if this works. It looks like the log is not taking effect. XML file, yeah, XML file is not taking effect. Let's go back to, let me see, where are we missing this, or else generally okay, this app test, where is my log4j, is under first maven and here. So let me move this to this particular package, or let's create a new. Ideally it should consider that at that level, but let's see, is it a naming issue? It shouldn't be. Okay, let me do one thing. The log4j, let me refactor it. Log4j, ideally it shouldn't be a problem. Log4j, let's say it's a 2 XML. Save, and then we added at a project level. Build path also, right click, go to properties, and the build path source. Oh, okay, yeah, it is added. I think I'll have to move down. Should matter. Log4j, move down. Okay, close. Let's see. Right click, run as test-ng test. Okay, good. Okay, so that was the error. That was the problem because of the way our build path was considering log4j XML, the level of it. So I think that was the problem. It was not taking into effect. The test was executing. See, the test was executing before even the logging was taking effect. So logging has to be at the last. And now these two, whatever the build path by default it has, where our test resides. Now here, if you see the same test, now it has reported all the 4 different logs: the info log, debug log, error log, and also the fatal log, isn't it? Now from how it is and why it is happening is because if you see the log4j XML, in this log4j XML, we have said that I want to log everything. When we say level, logging level, uh, trace, it basically print everything whichever is in your test. Generally we use trace to find out the issues in your existing automation. So here, instead of trace, let's say if I say error, I no need to change my test. See, this test, even though this test has multiple logs, just by changing one aspect in my log.config, whatever the config file is, here when I say error and when I run the same test, instead of having these 4 different logs, I'll only see 2 logs. See this? because now I'm only interested to see the error logs. Are you getting this point? So this is one example of how your logging strategy can differ. Again, you may not want to see all the logs for one class and you want to see all the logs for another class. You can also do that kind of configuration, or you can also do that kind of mechanism if you want to. For example, I think you can define that everything in appenders. So again, this pattern here I'll say Ministry of Automation. Just I'm whatever pattern you want, you can define that pattern, and then when you run your test now instead of that complete main dot timestamp, now you see your logging information is using this Ministry of Automation as a pre-tag before it prints this particular logs, right? And now if I so this is very helpful, guys, when you have a lot of scripts and when you are looking for running where your stable scripts, let's say, even though your code contains everything, you don't want to execute just to avoid the file size and all, so you generally control that using this XML. Now here, if something fails and now you are interested to see all the logs, you will see a trace, and then you will run the same test again. Now when you just do the trace, now it will consider everything, and now here it will report everything one by one. So by just doing some changes in this config file, you have a control over what information to log and what information to avoid. So that's why when you're designing your test, you can include as much as info, as much as debug, but while running, you may not want to run every time the debug and info, and that's why you will use log level as error. And then if you want to find everything, if you want to trace a problem, if you are looking to go line by line, you will use level as trace. Now this is to have a flexibility around what should be logged. Now like I said, by default it is reporting at a console level, but if you want to store this log and save it somewhere else, you can do that as well. So for that you will have to do some more little bit changes in your appenders tag. Now I have some ready-made code which I'll paste just to show you what exactly I mean. Or you know what, you can always go to official website and get that. So let's go to the official website. Now here, see, I also learn from official website. You can also go in official website and to find out more, so additivity is another thing. I'll tell you about additivity. See, these are all kind of little bit advanced concepts. If you really want to go deep down in Log4j, if your project needs are very complex, they will have to spend some time to understand the config file. Otherwise, if you are just want to getting started and if you want to include this aspect in your framework building, then make sure you have that Maven dependency, and then you ask your team members or you yourself start writing a test by utilizing log.info, log.debug, error, and fatal. Now, most of the time people get confused about when to use what log. I'll give you some thumb rule. Whenever you're designing your test case, use info wherever you want to print some good information, success information, green information, So let's say successfully, let's say, I'll say successfully inside application or logged inside application, I'll say, okay, application, use log.info. Now there will be some time where you are doing some kind of string manipulation, or you just want to print saying printing variable information. You don't want that to show to an end user, but if you are doing a debugging or if you are really looking into an end-to-end test, it's good to know. So you can use debug in that level where the information will be helpful for a technical person to find the issues in your script. Use debug in that case. Error, when actually there is an error with the script, when you use assertions and then you find that, hey, the button is not available, or basically something which you want to be highlighted or to be reported, use error. The fatal is basically, you are defining to stop execution, or you are doing very different sequencing patterns. For example, if you are jumping from one test to another test altogether because of some fatal error, So in that case, you can use fatal. Most of the times, info and debug and error, these three are very, very widely used. Okay. So once you start using this, you'll get to know, you'll have more understanding around it. But yes, I think on a high level, you guys understood why the Log4j technology is being used in framework building and what advantage it provides us, right? If you want to store the logs in a specific file or not in a console, so right now you're looking at a console. If you want to store in some other text file, and if you want to segregate them, like pass logs in one file, fail logs in one file, then you will have to add under appenders, you will have to add some information, something like this. I'm adding ready-made because I have this stored. You can also get it this from official website. So here, what this basically says is, rolling file is the tag where it defines, okay, which file you want to store, what should be that file pattern, you know. So here you no need to have basically base path is basically whatever this log4j is generating. So base path for us is Maven first project, that particular. If you right click on your project and if you go to properties, you will see the base path. Where is the base path? I think resources. Yeah. So this is the base path. So under this base path, what it is gonna do is it's gonna create something called as print log file name pattern. See, name pattern is also you can have a control here. This is to make sure that every time you run, it will create a new pattern, year, month, date, you know. And then what is the printing layout of that? Again, this printing layout, like I said, Ministry of Automation, here you can define the printing layout. This is the one format, this is the another format. So when I'm saying, when I'm logging at a console level, use this print layout. When I'm logging at a file, then use this print layout, you know. So basically you can create your different layouts. And then this is the maximum file size. So if your logs are growing beyond this size, it will automatically create a next file within a same folder, so that you have a control over the size of the file also. Now when you do this in appenders tag, now when you log it here, you are saying I want all the logs, but I want to store it in a file. So here, instead of console, you just give a file. That's it. Now here what will happen, instead of console, give the same name as this, copy in. So logger is basically deciding where to log, right? So, and what to log. Now here, where to and what to is getting defined. So here it's saying, okay, I want to trace all the logs. And then instead of reporting at a console level, can you please follow the file level, which means this is the, I want it to follow this particular level, so that I can get that log file, send it to someone else, you know. So now by doing this change, if I again go back and again run my test, let's see what happens. Okay, now you see it didn't print anything at a console. Can you see anything printed at a console? Nothing printed in a console apart from system.out.println, because by default system.out.println uses console, but rest of that, no logs, none of these logs has printed here in the console. Why? Because our logging strategy says, okay, I want all the logs, but not on a console level. I want it at a file level. And where was the file? We says, I want file at a base directory, and under that create a print.log file. Now here, I don't see print.log file. Let's refresh, right click, refresh the project. Now you see base directory. Here see it automatically created a base directory inside that. Ideally it shouldn't have created this, but let's see. Now here you see print.log, it created a file. Now if I go and open this file, now you see inside this file, it has printed all the logs. You're getting my point, guys? Hope you guys are following.
Yeah.
Right? And now here, let's say instead of print, if I again run this, now what will happen? Will it override or it will create another file? Let's see.
Another, I think.
Let's see. So if I right click, run as test-ng test. Again, no console level logging. Go to print log, right? If you want to refresh, see, It has created another file based on the pattern we have given in this particular pattern, right? Whatever pattern we are asking it to give, it's gonna create a file based on that pattern. Now when you run it again, it will create another file. So basically, instead of reporting at a console level, you are reporting at a different. The only thing is you'll have to refresh it all the time. See, again, this is done at a broader level. I'll give you why the Log4j is very useful in DevOps. When you create bigger projects and when you want to send someone else the failure issues or failure logs, generally how it's being designed is whenever the test fails, we collect this particular file from a specific registry, we draft an email or a Slack message and send it to that developer saying like, hey, there is an issue with your test, and we send this log, look into the logs, and we run it at a trace level so that he can generally that those people no need to go open the code and do all these things. They'll simply open this trace file and say, okay, looking at the log, they'll understand, okay, where the problem is, So that's why Log4j is very useful. And Log4j, the only thing is how do you consume that in your project is important. Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have for Log4j. You guys have any questions? If not, we'll take 5 minutes break, and the next topic is also interesting. I'm going to cover the extend reports. Okay. So let's join after 10 minutes and we'll talk about extend reports, which is a reporting framework. And I'll tell you the difference between logging and reporting. Okay. If you have any questions. I'm recording. So the Log4j is really going to help, especially when you have very big projects where multiple logging strategies is needed. Very well used and very useful technology to be considered while framework building. Now the next thing we're going to learn is reporting. Now what is reporting? So if you guys have observed, logging is different than reporting. Okay. So what is logging? Basically, when I was saying logging, it's more of a technical word. It's more of a basically an information to an end user who is looking into the scripts, either in terms of development or in terms of debugging or in terms of reviewing, right? The logging information is mostly useful for those folks. Whereas reporting is altogether a different aspect. Most of the other tools than Selenium gives logging and reporting as a part of the tool itself. So let's say when I talk about Oracle OpenScript, another automation tool which I teach, there the reporting and logging both are the integral part of the tool itself. So when I say reporting, which means it's going to generate a report for you of execution report. It can contain logs. Okay. Execution report can contain log, but what is execution report? Execution report will give you how many tests has ran, or basically here you see the test ng also gives you one sample report. If you guys have observed, see, right? This is a simple test ng report, which test ng generates for you by default, right? Where it has a list of summaries, how many tests pass, how many tests failed, and then included classes, excluded. So test ng also has a reporting, inbuilt reporting, but it doesn't give you a kind of a very detailed report, and it is again at a method level, count level, which is more again technically driven. But yes, this is the one simple example of report coming from test ng. But Selenium WebDriver as an standalone solution doesn't give you reporting on its own. There is no report, there is no HTML report which is getting generated for you, where you can see how many tests pass, how many tests fail, some pie charts, or maybe percentage calculations and so on. That is not done by Selenium by default. Test ng creates a report, but again it's at a very different level. Like this sample, to get a more detailed reporting flexibility, there is another technology again, which is extend reports. So again, extend report is also not developed by Selenium folks, it's developed by someone else and given to you to use it. Is it developed only for Selenium? The answer is no. Again, it's not developed only for Selenium.
Extend report is widely used in a lot of automation technologies, like Log4j is used in a lot of automation technology. TestNG is used in a lot of automation technology. Maven is used in a lot of other technologies, right? So whatever we are learning is not specifically developed for Selenium. These are all individually developed technologies to address individual problem. The only thing we are integrating with Selenium because Selenium doesn't provide those thing on their own, and that's why we are taking help of these individual technologies and building our framework, right? So what is extend report? Logging is different than reporting. Do you guys understand this difference? Yeah, if you have questions, you can ask. Okay, there is no shying away from the fact. Some people, when they get started with it, they sometimes have confusion that Saurabh, hey, what is Log4j and what is extend report? I'm not sure, because ultimately Log4j is also doing same thing. No, Log4j is giving logs at a execution level. Log4j doesn't tell you how many tests pass, how many tests fail. You know, it doesn't give you screenshots. It doesn't give you a lot of other mechanism like these charts and all, which I'm gonna show you soon. Let's go to images, and yeah, just give a sample. We're gonna generate all these things. So if you see something like this, it's basically, let's directly go to the image. So if you see the image like this is not given by Log4j, right? Log4j is more of a, like I said, technically driven logs at different levels how you want to see your test. Whereas extend report is generating a very nice looking, graphically colorful report where you can pass out to your management, so you can give it to your client, or you can publish it to your entire team at a Slack post or an email post, which indicates how many tests pass, how many test steps are run. And there are so many, there is again a bunch of customization you can do if you are using an extend report in your automation framework. Okay, this is one sample example of how the extend report may look like. So how do you use extend report? So do you guys understand what problem statement it is solving for us? It's helping us to solve the reporting part aspect of our execution, because right now if you write a Selenium test, do you guys have any specific report which you can, even if you run on your system 10 times, if you want to send a result to your manager, if you want to send a result to your client, do you have anything which you can directly give it to them, which will indicate your execution, which will indicate your pass and fail method numbers and all? Have you observed anything so far, whatever we have learned so far in Selenium? Do you have any one report or any one place where you can share that with someone else? No? Yeah, probably you may want to explore TestNG report, which it automatically creates for you. But again, it is not that intuitive, you know, it's not that friendly. It is more of a technically driven, how many classes pass, how many methods pass. And but yes, TestNG do have one small report. But apart from that, Selenium doesn't generate anything for you, right? And that is why we take help of this extend report. Is the extend report only solution in a market? The answer is no. There are a lot of solutions in a market for reporting. It depends on your project needs and depends on your, of course, a client need, customer need, if they are ready to pay for it. If they are ready to pay for it, there are wonderful reporting mechanisms available. Extend report is a free to use, and that's why it's mostly and widely used across automation projects. And it is more customizable. Instead of red color, if you want yellow color, if you want, there are so many things you can do in extend reports. So if you're looking for a free solution, if you're looking for something which you want to use as a reporting framework, then yes, you should be using extend report. I hope you guys are getting understanding the logging framework, reporting framework, testing framework, dependency managers, right? Everything is making sense to you, right? So automation framework is a bigger picture. Inside that we have this small subset. TestNG is a testing framework. Log4j logging framework. Extend report reporting framework. Maven is a build manager, or you can say the dependency manager, right? And then If you want a data-driven framework, which is another terminology, but to use that, you use another technology. So like Apache POI libraries, again a separate technology, which can be used. So when you use all these things together, you basically say we are building a framework, right? Okay. Another the same story. If you want to use extend report, what is the first thing I'm going to use? Extend report download. Is that right? Download extend report jars.
You just the word framework.
Mhm.
Using all these different kind of tools together in scripting, is that called framework?
Yes, when you use all these different technologies to create processes, discipline, and some kind of rule sets for your automation script building, you say I'm building framework, right? And then within a framework, there are small framework. Like for example, testing framework. We are using TestNG. Now, how to use TestNG? What is the standard for your team? What is general thumb rule? Because those all things will define your script reviews. You will say, hey, we use TestNG and I want you to group our test with smoke test or a module or regression. So that will be a review comment if someone has not done in that way, right? So that's a testing framework, review comments. Logging framework. If someone has not used a specific logs, if they only use system.out.println in their entire script, you will give us a review comment saying like, hey, we use Log4j as our logging framework. So please use logging rather than system.out.println, right? And you will ask them that, hey, wherever there is a pass, please use log info. Wherever there is a warning, use log error. Wherever there is an actual failure, use log fatal, right?
Yeah, basically using of these tools in the process is called the word framework.
Exactly. Yes, you can say that. Framework itself is creating a guideline, creating a discipline, creating a process, right? So I think you were absent in our last session, Divya, where we discussed about automation framework in detail.
That day I went half the class I went.
Yeah, so I forwarded a recording, I believe. Go ahead and listen to that, because automation framework, we discussed a lot in that, what exactly it is and why we call this, so that they will understand. Because I keep on repeating this fact. The reason is, I know when you listen it for the first time, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes repetition helps us to be on track, so repetition is very important in automation, and that's why you may find sometimes I repeat certain things more than expected because I know you guys are learning for the first time. When I report again and again, repeat again and again, it will cement in your brain. And then once you leave my classes tomorrow, if someone asks you what is TestNG, you will confidently say it's a testing framework used for deciding what to test, how to test, grouping the tests without changing your code. When someone asks you Log4j, you will say logging framework. Say extend report, reporting framework, build framework, Maven. And there are so many things. Automation is growing very fast, guys. But everything is following the same trend. What technology, what problem statement it is solving, how to consume that technology. If you learn this, any automation tool in your future will be easy for you to upscale. Okay, coming back to extend report. So now, regular story. Whenever we want to take help of any technology with our existing automation, what is the first thing we do? We download its jar, right? Basically, we see in what mechanism, in what format that technology is available to us, correct? Traditional approach, download, import, or what is the next thing we do? Extend Maven dependency, right? Is that right?
Yes.
So we'll go to Maven repository, we'll say extend reports for Selenium. See, you get it. And then go to whichever the stable version is. Looks like 2.4 is the stable version. So I'll go with whatever the maximum usage, 21, this one. Click on that, and then this is the Maven dependency. Just copy the dependency tag. See, Maven has simplified so many things for you. Copy this dependency tag, come to your project, go to pom.xml where we have a lot of other dependencies. Click on the XML. Now here under dependencies is a plural word. Under that you have to add your dependency, right? So I'll come here and I'll paste this. The moment I paste this, you'll see, the moment I save this here on your bottom right, you'll see, so building workspace, it will start importing the extend report jars for you, right? And then when you go to Maven dependency drop down here, probably we'll start seeing some extend report jars. There are so many that it's difficult. Yeah, see this extend report jar, right? This is coming from Maven. Okay, so first thing is done. We added a Maven dependency. What is the next thing generally we do? If we want now, let's say if I want to use extend reports, what should I do? What is the next thing?
Go and extract the report.
No, the next thing we do is create an object to consume the technology, right? Here we created an object of log, right? So that we want to start using that. Similarly, if you want to use extend reports, what is the first thing we'll do?
Extend report.
Exactly. So we'll create extend report object, right? So extend reports. Extend report is a class. So I'll say report equal to new extend report. See, this sometimes this initial format you will have to get used to it because it will take some time. Import extend report from extend report jar. So click import, and now this extend report will basically expect certain input. What is that? It will basically expect a path. So here I'll tell you what that path is. Path is basically where you want to store this execution file. So let's say I'm just giving the string equal to, I'm just defining one path. So basically on a runtime, whenever you are creating your execution reports, you want to store at a project level wherever that execution is running. So in that basically what you do is system dot get property. Basically you are saying in a runtime I want to make sure whatever the user directory, so there are some terms, so we'll say the user, whatever the user directory is, inside that user directory can you please store, saying like extend report.html. So I'm saying okay, please go ahead and inside my existing repository, properties, I think it's a property. Okay, string, and I'll say path equal to. So here what I'm saying is in a runtime I'm getting that user directory and then appending saying can you please create HTML file, and then this path you need to file in this object. Only this initial couple of steps will be sometimes difficult for you and it is fairly easy to get them. But yes, once you create that, now you have this object ready. Now using this object, what we'll do, there are so many things we'll do. Now we have to create one more object which is extend test. Now what is this? Basically you should be creating this before your test starts. So let's say after logging class, I'll create this. So here I'll say log4j object, and then here I will say extend report object. Okay, and now now once you create extend report object, there is one more thing you have to create, which is extend test. Now how do you create extend test? Similarly, like we create this one. So I'll say instead of extend report, I'll say extend test and say test equal to, or I think you just can create like this and then import extend test. And then basically we need to say, hey, test equal to report dot start test. So when you say start test name, you can give anything. Basically you can directly say the method name because that's ideally the test name. So you can say executing, or just give a test name like this if you want. Okay, this is the one way. This is a couple of steps. There are some more ways to do that, but I'm teaching you one of the simplest way to how to get started. So once you start this, extend report starts identifying this test. It started the session. It started. This is the statement you will have to add in each of your test ng test. So generally we report this at a class level so that you can use it anywhere. This is how we do. It's generally at a class level, not at a method level, because otherwise you will not able to use it. But now if you add it at a class level, in every test ng method, in every test ng test, you will able to use them. Correct. Same thing goes with the logger also. Okay, generally we create another method called as before test, because before test always execute first, right? So we create a before test method, and in that we write all the properties and all the parameters which we want to set, etc., or create it at a class level. Now here, once you create this object, it is started your test. Now what will happen whenever whatever step you want to report it, for example, you are doing, you can also do regular logging, and after that you say I want to report it on the final report. So here let's say you want to report this. So here you'll say, okay, can you please log this status as pass. I'm just giving one simple example, guys. So log status is, I think L is capital, log status dot pass, and then here you can say this is sample step which is pass. Whatever you write here will be reported on what will be reported on the final HTML which will get generated. Logging is different. Okay, or you can also pass these logs. Okay, you can also print the same logs here. Whatever info you are putting it in the logs, same thing you can also put it here. This log will be printed on the HTML report which will get generated, and this logs is basically for our reference, which is a test logs. Now this is the one way. Similarly, you can use the log status dot pass, log status. There are different methods here. So let's say fatal info, you can see skip unknown. There are warning, you can also pass all those things. So I'm just giving you one sample example of pass. Now once your execution is done, once your entire execution is done, you can write after class method, and in that after class method you have to basically end the test. So here, like you started a test, you have to end it, otherwise it will stop collecting any. Once you say end test, and which test, basically this is the test, right, the one which you started with. So you'll say, hey, I'm done with my test, please end the test. Oops, I'm sorry, I think this is the end test. And if you want to delete all the execution result before this, generally we use flush method, which means whatever already, if this test is getting executed twice by somewhere else, you don't want to store it, you can use flush. It's optional. If you don't want, you don't use it. It's totally fine. Now I'll show you how and what kind of report it will generate for you. We haven't done anything significant in terms of where I want my dashboard, where I want all the colors and all that thing. We have done pretty straightforward. Using an extend report, we created its object. We started a test. We are saying, hey, can you please start this test? You can give any name here, and then you can say, okay, please log pass message or fail message. This is also optional, no need to do this also. If you don't want this, just ignore it, but I'll show you what is the difference. And once your test is done, just end this. Or if you want to keep it very, very simple, bare minimum, just start the test and end the test. That's it. So whatever happen in between that, it will at least generate the logs and create a report for you. How many pass, how many fail, let's see. Now when I run this as again, run as test ng test, started running. Okay, this is, now let's go to this directory, refresh it, and we should expect where did it generated? Extend report directory, extend report.html. Do you see that file? Hmm. Mm, mm, mm. Hmm. Okay, let's do one thing. Rather than user directory, let me actually give the path. Okay. Please go to this path and then in that path create the extend report, and let's run this. Okay, let's refresh. Okay, now I see some change. Okay, yeah, see, I don't know why it created null folder, but okay, let's figure out that later on. But here you see extend report.html, right? So let's open this report, and now you see how good the by default we have created one sample report, right? Or if you want to look at in the folder, in a browser, just go to properties, and yeah, this is the location. Copy this location, and then let's look at this on the browser. When you come here on the browser, when you are trying to see, now see, this is a wonderful report which is created from our execution. On your left side, this is the test which we started with, and the one which we created it, and whatever the logs we are sending to the extend report, the same log it is printing under that test. So if you have multiple logs, it will print all those multiple logs. If you are printing screenshots, you will print screenshots also here. But very good by default execution report you are getting. If you go to dashboards, here it was just a minute. If you click on dashboard, it is giving you a very good report, how many pass percentage, because we ran only one test, it is giving you one test. What is the username, what is the particular Mac it used, what is the Java version, what was the host, and then how many number of tests pass and fail. So you no need to do anything. Extend report internally is doing everything for you. You just need to create its object and pass a test. I'll give you another example here. So let's say we created one start test, right? This in a similar fashion, if I have another test, for example, inside this, I add another test ng test, and let's try to do that. So let's say if I'm creating another test ng test, and then instead of test app, I'll say test app 2, and then start test, here I'll say test app 2. You can give any name here, by the way. Whatever you give name here, it the same extend report will consider it as a new test for you. And then let's remove the logging information. As of now, you're not interested in logging. And then log status, instead of pass, let me say dot warning. Let's say and say this is the sample warning message, right? And then end test, and in end test, the same test whatever we have passed is we are ending and flushing the previous result. Now here you will see the flushing previous result, because whatever the execution result already it has, it will override, it will flush that, and it will add a new one on it. If you don't flush it, you can see it will say weekly you ran it 2 times, both the time it passed. If you flush it, it will flush the previous result, and it will say, okay, number of time executed is 1, pass is 1. Now let's run this. I think we'll have to do modification in our test ng, because here we are saying, okay, please run only app test. Okay, now it will run under app test, whatever it is, I think it will run. So app test, we have 2 tests now. Hopefully it will run both the test under app test. So test ng helping us to control what test to execute. Log4j XML is helping us to understand what logs we need to report. Extend report is helping us to generate reports, right? Maven is helping us to get that technology on the go without downloading and importing it. Now let's go to app test, right click, run as, test ng test. The number of tests, how many number of tests it will run? See, test ng saying one class, which is true, two methods as per him, because we have two tests. Now, if you go to extend report, refresh this. Can anyone tell me how many tests it will show as executed? Okay, so let's go here, report, because it's going to override the same. Now you see on your left, two tests, right? One is pass, another is final status is warning. So if I click on this, see, this is a sample warning. This is a sample pass. If I go to dashboard, now you see how many number of tests you ran. Here, one pass, one warning, failed, 0, number of steps. So basically this is the sample HTML. You can send it to your team, or you can send it to your managers or clients, which will basically give you the entire execution status. So generally how do we use in a framework is we use extend report for our project, and then whoever is designing their new test, we ask them to use this test ng objects, extend report objects to start the test and to end the test. Even if they use this two, we are good. Whenever they are failing, just use .fail. Whenever they are want to warn an end user, just warn it. And then, so basically, ideally speaking, we don't use system.out.println in actual tests. We use logging strategies for logging. We use reporting strategy for reporting. And then using this, we build our test. We build our entire extend report structure. Now, if I don't flush this, I'll show you one sample example. If I don't flush this, and if I don't flush this, let's see. And what I'm going to do, instead of warning, I'm going to add multiple things. So instead of warning, let's say, and see the usage of this, you guys can understand where to use, right? Whenever you want to log failure, whenever you want to log info, pass, skip, if you're skipping sub test, so it's depend on you at what step in your test you have to use it. That is driven by you guys. This, I'm just teaching you how it works. So they'll say this is a sample fail.
This seems to be like we are hard coding the information.
Yeah, so I'm saying whenever you are writing an automation, you instead of writing the system.out.println, right? You will want to inform an end user about something, whether it passed or whether it failed or whether we skip that part. You have to use that information. Yes, you will hard code this messages. Messages is okay to hard code, right? Test data, you shouldn't be hard coding it. And then here I'll say we are skipping this test because of whatever the reason you can give.
What will be generated with respect to the test execution? Then in execution.
Yes. So you are right. But let's say if you are not reporting this fail, right? You're not reporting fail, but the test fails with exception or with something. It will still report as fail, but you will not get a message. I'm saying. So whenever your test is failing, you can print the message before it fails. Even if it goes in exception in a catch block, you should write this saying, hey, it failed. Looks like the test has failed because of so and so exception. When you catch exception, you get e object exception object dot print stack trace or something like that. So you can still print whatever the failure is, whatever the reason of failure is. When I right click, run as test ng test, and now let's go and refresh. You'll have same report again and again because it's overriding that. Okay, now oh no, I think let's refresh. Okay, 50% pass, 50% warning, but I don't see this one. Let's say we run it again. Let's refresh. It's not executing, and why so? Let's see. It's not flushing it, previous one, and that's why it's not able to override it. Let's run this now once again. Okay, now it will flush, hopefully. Yes, you can see timestamp, and here you can see different statuses. So yeah, I think because of the flush, it was not flushing out. But I hope in that case, I used to do different HTML reports here itself, I think. Yeah, I used to append. Yeah, here we used to append the current date timestamp so that it creates a different HTML report every time it executes. But anyway, yeah, here you can see for the pass, it printed one statement. Here in the second, the final status, it is showing you whatever the warning, and this I indicates info, and this indicates skip, that you skipped something. Now here the failed one, which we commented it earlier. Now if I uncomment that part, the final status will look like failure and not a warning. Now here if I save this and then if I run it, okay, executed, come back, refresh. Now you see fail, because warning basically is a lower level of report. If there is a failure, of course it will show it as failure, and the final status will be shown as failure. And then these are the different statements. So similarly, you can while designing your script, you need to make use of them, whatever and however you write your test. And now the reporting aspect will be automatically generated for you, so no need to worry about the final report, and it will give you entire thing. You can do some more modification in an extend report. Like I said, once you create an object, once you create this particular extend report object, right, you can explore what all methods are available in that and try to use them. For example, you can pass the customized tester name, you can pass customize, I think there are so many things you can pass. A report dot, I think get report ID, get project ID, load, start test, start reporter. See, there I remember there was a way to add custom details. There is also a way to take a screenshot. Okay, I will not go to that part as of now to explain in detail. But yes, there are so many things which you can explore. Though the basic thing is, if you want to have automatic reporting for your framework, start with extend report. Start using at least minimal whatever the minimum thing it provides you, and then you can always extend and increase the different type of things in your extend report. I think the test, whatever the test you have created, start test. Let's see if this one, yeah, add screenshot is available here. Yeah, but here, it may not give you exact. Let's try. There is some more thing I used to do to take a screenshot, but if I simply add this, let's see if it takes. I think it will create 1 mg, 1 img, 2 img, something like that. Yeah, there is an exception. Let's see what is that. Object vector implementation. Yeah, like I said, we need to, before you create a screenshot, you need to basically create another object to store the path and all. So that's let's not go to that. But yeah, you can explore this test object, what all things it creates and what all things it's available. It is coming from extend class, extend test class. There is one thing I wanted you guys to know, which is Get description, get end time, get run status. This is all fine. There was one way to basically add system info. I think should be in report. Let's see. Set test runner, add system info. It's a map, and then this. Let's say, do we have config here? Yes. Okay. And then inside config is to have oh, it's deprecated. Current method and the extend report is deprecated. Okay, extend report is deprecated, but there is another class, extend spark report. Now extend report is being replaced or kind of used with the spark report. So basically, instead of using directly an extend report, I think you can also use a spark reporter. And now why it's not working? Yeah, okay, fine. I'm kind of done, guys. I'm just trying to explore new things for you. But yes, this is how what the extend report looks like. This will automatically generate reports for you. So I hope today you guys understood about logging strategy and a reporting strategy. And in the next class, I'm gonna give you a deep down on Jenkins. Tomorrow we're gonna see Jenkins. And with that, I can say we have kind of concluded all our topics. And the last session, which is probably next week, is gonna be probably 2-hour session where we'll do an end-to-end framework building. Okay, we'll create a new class, we'll create a new Git repository, we'll create a new Maven project using test-ng, using Log4j, using extend reports. We'll try to write an end-to-end test. Okay, so see you see you next week then.